Welcome to Dragon Carp TV. My name's Richard Lee and I'm a tackle tester for Dragon, and we're out on the bank and we're going to look at some new rods and reels for 2013-2014. So the rods we're going to look at today are part of the Fraction range. It's an exciting new range, amazing value. There's several rods in the range, but what I've brought with me today is the Wagler rod, 12-foot 3-piece, and a little bomb rod for plenty of fun on the lead. Let's go through them in detail. Now this 12-foot Wagler rod is a sort of classic all-rounder. You could use it for carp fishing in the summertime, roach fishing, bream fishing, bit of an all-rounder really. As I say, it's got a nice progressive action and it's super slim. Now a lot of people would think a rod like this would cost 50, 60, 70 pounds, and it probably would everywhere else, but with Dragon it's just £19.99. It's remarkable value. It's very crisp and responsive. I'm using a 3AA Wagler today, casting about 25-30 yards, and this 12-foot rod really knocks it out there, really just pings the float out the Wagler without any effort at all. Like I say, it's very responsive. There's no twist in the blank when you're flicking the float out, so it always goes dead straight. The actual mandrel it's built on is very slim. Like I said earlier, you'd think it was a 50, 60, 70 pound rod. It's that slim, the rod. Normally these cheaper rods tend to be fatter in the blank because of the carbon, because of the glass content mixed in with the carbon, but no, not a chance with this one. Easy to strike, set the hook. There's plenty of attention to detail in the construction of the rod. The handle is a split cork and duplon, and it's got a winch fitting here for the reel, so it can be locked in place very tightly. So any sort of style reel fit into there, even a centre pin. It's finished, it's like a kind of matte black construction with a glossy black on the whippings. Looks very stylish. A little bit of hint of silver on the, to finish the whippings off. It's got nice lined guides, Matsuko lined guides, very hard, so they shouldn't corrode at all. Making sure your mono and line is always in good condition. There's even a keeper ring here for your hook. And it's a very, very beautiful piece of kit. And I've teamed this up with this Isis White Lightning reel. Now there's something very familiar about the styling of this reel. I'm sure you've seen something over the years from a very big brand. Well, I'm sure they've got their inspiration from that particular reel, but this is very stylish. It's got a double handle, which makes it balanced on retrieve. The ratio of retrieves fast. It's 5.2 to 1 retrieve, so it picks up your line very quickly. It's got like a modern air bail, and the roller is very smooth, so it eliminates line twist. On the back here, we've got the drag. There's lots of settings, so you can make it very, very fine, and it'll give line on demand. So today we're going to fish two methods. We're on this swim here. It's about 14 foot of water in front of me. So the first method I'm going to use is Wagler up in the water. Now you'd think in winter everything would be hard on the deck, but believe it or not, they're often mid-water. Carp, roach, bream, they do start to come off the bottom. So we're going to fish on the Wagler, mid-water, on the drop, and then on the same line we're going to also use a maggot feeder with a little bomb rod. So I can search out the fish, or wherever they are in that column, I'll be able to drop in and put a bait next to them. So let's talk through the Wagler setup. Now the float rig for today is really very simple, and as ever in fishing, we always make it more complicated than it needs to be. So I've said the swim's 14 foot deep. I'm not even going to try and fish on the bottom with that, with a 12-foot rod. I'd need a slider float, so the feeder's for that. But so this is me up in the water rig. So I've got an insert Wagler. There's lots of different styles of Waglers. You see them in the shop. They can be bodied Waglers, etc. pellet wagglers. This is a peacock insert. Now I use the insert because it's finer at the top. So if you dot it down, when a roach feeds and bites, and it's a quite shy biting fish, it'll easily go under the water with minimum resistance. So you don't want a really fat top. Equally, you've got to be able to see it out there. So if you're casting too far, you do need something that's visible so you can see the bite. I've got all my bulk around that, so it's 3 AA, the weight of the float. I've also used a float adapter to put the float into, and that allows me to change the float throughout the day. So if the colour of the water surface changes and I need to put a red top or a black top float on, that's simple. If indeed, I need to see, a thicker top float, I can change quite quickly. So the bulk is around the float, and then I've got a few dropper shots down, very small ones, number 9s, number 8s, and those will allow the bait to fall very slowly alongside the loose feed. That's how simple it is. I've also put a little swivel in the hook length. That's to stop spinning up and line twist. And I've got a 011 diameter, which is about 3 pound line, nice and fine. I could go finer if I struggle to get bites. And then I've got a B560, Kamasan B560 hook, I think it's B560, which is a swept design. I really like that pattern, and it's very, very fine wire and very sharp. So the maggot's go on very simply. And like I say, I'm starting on an 18 with double maggot, but I could go to a 20 or a 22. It just depends how the day's going, and I'll fish to the bites or lack of them depending on what's happening. But very, very simple technique. Now let me show you how to cast as well, because this is important. When you're fishing a float, very important when you're casting a waggler out to act as a brake on the line with your finger. So when you cast out, just as it falls on the surface, you break the line with your finger and it shoots the hook length out, so everything lands in a line, so the bait can fall in an arc. Now if you don't do that and you just cast it, it all falls in a heap, it can cause tangles and it doesn't fall through the water naturally. So just watch this, little bit of a drop from the top, maybe a couple of feet, swing it over, all one movement, out it goes, break, all happens very quickly, and your line shoots out. Now also, when you've got the line floating on the surface, that can drag your float out of position, and it can be quite unnatural. And roach are quite cute, and they notice that, and they'll probably leave your bait. So you need to think about sinking your line. Now you can do that by little sharp winds like this, get it under the water, or with a rod like this, it's got a nice crisp action, dip it underneath and boom, flick it upwards and everything disappears really fast. Right, so I've been fishing for about half an hour, just dripping the maggots in, just a few every cast, and that's what you've got to do. You just got to keep sort of the steady little trickle to get the interest and get the trigger of the fish. Problem with this gravel pit fishing in winter, it can be very prolific, and I've had some massive catches of roach here in the winter. Then the next day you don't get a bite, and I never quite worked out what that natural trigger is on gravel pits that causes the fish to suddenly start and stop, but it can be very pronounced. Anyway, so I've been feeding for a while, no bites yet. So I'm going to go now over the top on the lead or a little feeder and then see whether any of the fish are just hard on the bottom. So I'm going to search the layers out, so right to the bottom this time, and see if we can get a bite. Now the second rod I got with me is from the fraction range again, and it's an 8-foot bomb rod. Now this has got multiple uses. You could use it as a commercial fishery where swims are very tight and you want a short rod, or you could use it down the river, down the side of it when you're link ledgering, on a canal. It's a brilliant tool, and it's stick thin. Look how thin that rod is. It's just magic in the hand. And I've teamed it up with a Meteor reel. This is a really different kind of looking reel, and there's 2 sizes in this, one for a float and one for a feeder. But they're beautifully designed, and I first saw this kind of reel from the continent probably about 2 to 3 years ago. I think it came under the Garbolino range, and these have started to emerge in the UK. Very different, very stylish, and great drag, so very precise when you're playing big fish. So let's talk through this bomb rod in detail. Just like all the fraction rods, you get a Duplon cork split with a winch fitting, so the reel's always secure. Got quality line guides again here. They're quite heavy duty, these guides. Very strong for if you are fishing for carp. It's 2-piece in the main body, and then you get a selection of tips. that come in this container here. There's 3 tips, different weights, 2 glass ones that are very soft and a stiffer carbon tip. Now you might think that because the rod's so short, it really impedes your cast. And yes, you're not going to cast 70, 80 yards with it, but you can still get a fair lick on with it, and it's very accurate. There's no twist in the blank when you're chucking it out. So if you've got an island at 30 yards or a feature you want to chuck to, absolutely no problem at all. Just give yourself a little bit of a drop down. I love short rods. They're so easy to use. Flick it out. Perfect. So what would you expect to pay for something like this? It's reminiscent of the old Sigma ones. Well, probably 50, 60 quid again, because it is so crisp and responsive and so thin. But no, not a chance. Like all the fraction range, just $19.99. So I've been using this reel, the Meteor, probably for a few weeks now. And I've had some nice fish on it, carp to double figures. I've even had some big perch when I've been jigging and drop shotting with braid. What I like about it, the key thing for me, is it's lightweight, so you can have it in the hand all day. So that's important when you're float fishing on rivers or trotting on rivers, and also if you're lure fishing, when you're jigging and casting and jigging. I mean, if you haven't got, say, if you've got a heavy reel on, it starts to really give you some jip at the end of the session. Also, I like the new styling of handle as well. This is starting to creep in this year. It's like a Foamex handle, but it makes a very, very comfy retrieve. Also, it's so lightweight. It's incredible, just a matter of grams, and it combines brilliantly with short rods. So what would you expect to pay for something of such precision? This is top-end stuff. Well, I've seen reels like it before, like I've said, and they're about 70, 80 pounds. This, the Meteor, in both sizes, the small one and the medium, just $29.99. That is great value.